We have conference finals. We are here at this point of the season, one game shy on either side away from MLS Cup Final. I'm super excited about it. As you can see on your screen before you, got a pretty big cast and crew today. It's a big set of matches coming up. So we had to bring in as many faces we possibly could to have this discussion and preview each of these conference finals. As you can see before you, we have Hector from Insert Name FC. We got Bob from the Designated Pundits. Welcome in, Bob. We got Rob from Lacuna Galaxiana also joining in to give us the Galaxy take. We got Davi from the Blue Burrows Pod. Not looking too happy. I don't blame him, bro. And then, of course, we got Mo Football here today again to preview, to predict how we think each of these conference finals are going to go. If you haven't done so already, do me a quick favor, like the video down below, subscribe to the channel again for weekly MLS content here on Goals TV. All right. Now, guys, let's jump into it. Before we get into everything else, as you can see, big crew here today. We got a little bit of, some different vibes, different feels all the way around, some winners and some losers in the video for today. Let's react a little bit to what we just saw unfold, right, this past weekend. The conference semifinals. We had, of course, right, the Red Bulls in that first game take home the Hudson River Derby. Before we go to the next three, by the way, Davi, how we feeling about that, bro? We never really talked about it. You kind of just didn't answer anybody in the group chat that night, and then we came back to it the next morning.
Ultimately, the right thing was done in sacking Nick Cushing. After
did he get fired? Did he get fired, or what? Did he just decide he was leaving?
I think they ultimately fired him. I think that's what happened. I mean, if you're in New York, and you lose the fan base, it's pretty much over for you because no one's going to back you at that point. And I mean, Nick Cushing slowly through the 2.5 seasons that he was here, he slowly lost the fan base a little bit. And I never believed in Nick Cushing, so I was one of the few early ones that wanted him out. I never wanted him hired to begin with. I thought that was a lazy hire when Ronnie left, and he got us to a conference final and shot himself in the foot by making a substitution, and then it all went down there. And then not backing him in start of 2023, and then signing players that he barely even gives a sniff of the field, spending $20 million, and you're not giving players like Jovan, Fernandez, players like that, Ojeda, you're just forcing them on the bench and just keep rolling out the same 11.
Would you be saying this, though, had you guys won? Let's say you guys beat the Red Bulls and you're going to the conference final.
Yeah, I think so. I think it'd be singing a different tune, but
that was just never in the cards. That just wasn't. I mean,
okay, all right. I don't know.
To be fair, Jose, Davi has always been Cushing out. I mean,
exactly.
I know, but I still think the tune changes a little bit. If you go into that game, you win.
Well, it absolutely does.
Unfireable at that point.
Well, I guess unless the thing with New York City, you don't know. You never know with this club. You never know. So who knows? They may have been talking to other people behind the scenes. They may have found a manager that's a free agent right now, and they're really interested in him. And
Josh Wolf.
Who knows? Probably not. I don't think they'll dip into
Wolf. You're not going to be happy for much longer.
I don't think they'll dip into MLS coaches outside of Jason Kreis, and he was CFG/MLS, and he was absolutely horrible. They canned him for Patrick Vieira, and then we just got exponentially better as well.
What about Jim Curtin,
I was about to say that too. Actually, that's
no,
a great shot.
No,
I overperformed as Philadelphia. Took him to an MLS Cup final.
Maybe. I mean, he also
did no budget. That's the thing.
Yeah, I was about to say that
he
worked on a budget. He worked on a very tight budget, and he got the best out of those players for a good 3, 4, 5 seasons. So who knows? And when Talis Magno came on the bench and scored the winning goal in Philly in 2021, he was like, man, I wish I could have a substitute like that. It's worth a lot of money on my bench that I could throw him in. So, I mean, anything's possible. Who knows? But we'll just have to wait and see. And I think they made the correct decision. And I think 2025 will be exciting. And I got to thank the Red Bulls for this one because you guys absolutely gave me the wish I wanted. So
stop, bro! Don't do this. Don't do this.
No,
Davi, don't do this. Don't do this, bro. You cannot go on and thank your biggest rival. You can't.
What that is called the pivot. Like if he says that, then he can't. I can't say anything bad about him the rest of the episode. He's trying to be like, this was a good thing.
I mean, bro, I just
ultimately, I think it was because I think it shows that the club cares and there's actually some ambition, and the thing is that we thought that the club didn't care until 2027 when the stadium opened up. But Marcelo Claude, he's the new owner, the minority owner at NYCFC. He tweeted out, "I hear you loud and clear," the day before the news broke out. So who knows? He may have had an influence on it, maybe not, but I would like to think he did. I was one of the people actively like, brother, please get rid of Nick Cushing, please. And when you're the butt of my jokes at work when nobody cares about MLS, you're fucking dog shit, man. You're cooked.
All I'm saying is saying that you're grateful to your biggest rival for knocking you out of playoffs and getting your manager fired is nasty work, crazy work, bro. Like, I don't know. Again, maybe I'm a different breed of fan.
Have we all been there?
No. No.
You'll never see me thanking my biggest rival for now.
They don't know what full depression.
Could you imagine Mo thanking a Sporting Kansas City fan or Rob being like, "Hey, LAFC, thank you for the L, bro"? No, there's no way.
I'm not even taking it St. Louis. I'm talking Chelsea. I'm talking about Europe.
Yeah, any team. But
no way.
Right? It doesn't.
No way. Will I think?
Never. No, this is the one time. This is the one time it's allowed. Because I've been against this guy for 2.5 years. I did not back this guy from the start. I've seen through all his bullshit, and
it's still not worth it. Like I will take a shit manager over losing to my biggest rival.
I'll never think Arsenal or Tottenham.
Well, here's the thing. I can't go back and change the result. So, I mean, what's the best thing you could do? You could fire the manager and get somebody else who can actually prepare these players and get them to win these games.
Maybe don't thank them, but look at the silver lining. It's like, okay,
exactly.
Yeah. Like, hey, I'm not gonna thank the rival, but like, hey, you know what? Let's find the positive in what. Actually
I think in the long term, in the long term, they did us a favor. And
yeah,
and I agree with that part, but I think we've all been in that place where we're just like, I just need this coach gone. Like, I just need this guy. Like, I don't know what needs to be done, but. I mean, hey, remember, I'm sure everybody here that rooted for the U.S. men's national team, we were all Berhalter out and just hoping that something could happen to get that man off that position.
Fair enough. And that's the bow we'll put on this. I think at the end of the day, look, we're not going to agree on that like sentiment, but I do think that, yes, silver line, like Rob said, the manager's out. We'll see you guys bring in. I still think, though, from season over season, he did a decent job. You guys weren't in playoffs last year. He got you back to the Eastern Conference semifinal this year. I mean, at the end of the day, like, results are results, but we'll see what happens. I
guess we're the youngest team in MLS, so maybe we weren't ready to make a full cup run, I would argue. But at the same time, it's like they're trying to recreate 2021. They're trying to catch a lightning in a bottle for a second time, and it's not going to work out. You got to bring in veteran players that know how to win these games, like, especially against your biggest rival in a high stakes knockout game where it's just a one and done, where anything could happen. And quite frankly, the thing is under Nick Cushing is that the team falls asleep and during set pieces or second balls, and that's how we lost the game. 2 goals on one goal on a second ball and 1 goal on a set piece. And
that second goal was a banger, though.
I know. Yeah,
insane goal, bro.
Yeah, but the set piece they could have done a lot better with that set piece. They should have cleared it.
It's one-off opportunities, and again, it's what we'll talk about it here in a little bit. We'll talk about the preview for the Red Bulls in Orlando, but I kind of said it going into the match. I feel like they just have more X factor when it matters. And whether it's Forsberg, whether it's Venzier, there's a few different players on that roster that I think in those big moments step up against a side, like you said, inexperienced, a little bit younger.
Yeah.
But look, let's keep it moving. We saw how that game went. From there, we transitioned to LAFC hosting Seattle. Crazy game. Did anybody feel like? I don't know. I was waiting for LAFC to just end this game. It never seemed to fall. Seattle survive again.
Well,
and it feels
they
like
did end the game. Should not put that on goal.
Bro. And maybe it's the story of both teams, right? Seattle not being the one to score and get them in a position to win the game, and LAFC finding a way to gift another opportunity to an opponent. I don't know. It's just this LAFC team. Are they overrated for what they were supposed to be in 2024?
Yes, of course Definitely. They are. And they were supposed to be
choke artists
and do the thing. And then, the International Cup comes and they get a shiny new player up top who doesn't play and can't find the back of the net. So yeah, I think that's a huge problem for LAFC. We were really scared heading into the playoffs, and then they had a couple good games at the end of the season, and we're like, okay, the offense is back. It was not back, and Seattle was able to execute their own game plan. I mean, they're not the Galaxy. That's what we're going to say. But that's a sign of a good team. A good team is going to beat bad teams and step up to the occasion once in a while. But when they have to face adversity, maybe they have enough. And if you played that game 10 times, LAFC wins 6 or 7 of them. But that wasn't the way to go. And that was Seattle's match. That, it was their chance in this one. And, all credit to them. They went out and they didn't necessarily dominate play, but they forced LAFC to play their game. LAFC wanted to score 4 or 5 in that one, and Seattle just said, no, that's not going to happen. So, I do think LAFC is a little overrated. I think what happened, particularly for me, and I'll take the credit for, when it's due, I made a couple bad bets on LAFC this season. We thought that they were fixed. They were broken like towards the end of the season. We thought, they turned around, they turned a corner, and it turned out that they still could face these defenses that are going to shut them down completely. And, it wasn't without errors. Own goals certainly will do that to force overtime. But yeah, I definitely think that they're just slightly overrated. But, a couple weeks before the end of the season, I bought in at plus 700 on LAFC to win the cup. So is that really overrated? I mean, what's the implied chance?
I guess technically not. On that? Yeah, technically not from that perspective, right? But I think for what the expectation was by most fans going into this postseason, I would agree with everything you just said. It just feels like, I don't know, an overrated side. I can't think of anything else. And led by, Bouanga, who I feel like is kind of becoming this strongly overrated player. I think he leads the entire league in big chances missed. And I can't even count how many opportunities I felt like he was in great positions, either made the wrong pass or the shot was horribly off. I don't know.
I don't know if I will say overrated. I think it felt like LAFC was mostly mismanaged, because from what you could tell is like, well, I always will defend Giroud, for example, when for him coming into LAFC, I think he was not put into position that he's used to play in. So when you put players, when you try to put a player that is not ready to play with those that are on the flanks, for example, like Bouanga. We know Bouanga wants to score most of the goals, but Giroud is more of a holding forward. They're supposed to play along together. And if you watch some of those LAFC games, it's more individuals, or they think that Giroud is going to score 15 goals or 25. He's never been that player to begin with. And he's never been the striker to be the striker that everyone looks into. You as an Arsenal fan, right? You saw him. He was more of a additional striker with the guys on the flanks that were doing 99% of the work. So I think it was sort of the mixed manage of it. But
I think it's worth noting also that he had 16 goals in the first half of the season and 8 over the second half of the season. He is 30 years old, and you can't expect him to be Ricky Puig with like endless legs running all over the field like a point guard. You need to know what you have. And, a big secret in the fantasy football industry for a long time was on these old guys, like run them for the first 7 weeks, ship him out because he's not going to finish the season strong. And, maybe that's what it is. Maybe he needs to just be, an auxiliary piece from here on out. Maybe he doesn't need to be the guy on the team. And I feel like that's the way LAFC is still kind of seeing him as the guy that they want to touch the ball on every play. And there's nothing wrong with not being that guy. There's plenty of very successful players in Major League Soccer who are no longer that guy. If you take even Lionel Messi is taking a huge step back from, the days where he would have the ball on his feet for 85% of the game. He's not that guy anymore. And you just got to use him a little differently and find a better supporting cast, because if he wasn't it, no one else was either.
Yeah, I agree. No, I hear both sides, Mo. I definitely do. I think it's not. I think it's without context. It's a little bit harsh to say Bouanga himself is overrated, but I think the attack that he leads was expected to do significantly more. Like Bob said, they slowed down, and look, man, they couldn't get past a very experienced Seattle side, despite the fact that they have their own issues in the attack and even in the midfield, right? So yeah, look, all in all, a very surprising game. Jordan Morris, the hometown hero. I think he surprised a lot of folks. Even on the show before that these games took place, most of us said that Rui Diaz should have been the one starting. I kind of vouched for both, but at the end of the day, Morris was the hero, and we'll see if Schmetzer sticks with them against the Galaxy. I expect him to do so fully.
Yo, Jose, I just want to let you know, man. I was at BMO
Yeah.
on Saturday night, and it really is this hubris. You know, it's just really trying to fit Giroud as a square peg into a round hole. I mean, they look so much better with Kiki Oliveira on the field, and I think you saw that when he came on the field, they looked better. But I just think that LAFC just took them for granted. Didn't think that Seattle had a shot. I mean, I watched a bunch of pundits and stuff like that in the lead up, and everybody was counting Seattle out. Of course, they had lost 10 in a row. And even in extra time, I was there, and there's like this feeling of inevitability around BMO that LAFC was going to get the goal to score. And so when Morris scores, it's a tomb up in that bench. It's absolutely like it goes absolutely quiet, and the press box as well. I mean, everybody was stunned. I mean, it was the damnedest thing I've ever seen. I mean, press boxes are quiet to begin with. This was, like I said, a tomb.
Crickets, absolute crickets.
And in the end, I think the story for me is the end. The two teams with the highest touted DPs that did the least with Giroud and Pedro de la Vega over the course of the season. I mean, these are teams that we thought were going to be very offensive through a lot of the season, and it wasn't certainly not the case.
Yeah, that's certainly not the case. Let's move to Orlando and Atlanta. This game, I think, was in my opinion, a little underwhelming. I think I don't know for what reason I expected a little more out of Orlando. I think Atlanta, most felt they were pretty lucky to be there. I thought they did a decent job containing Orlando's key pieces with Enrique, with Farias. But I think, Atlanta did what they could do for the most part. That goal did go in. They were never able to really recover. They got chances. And I think that gives, Red Bull fans hope, right? Because they created enough chaos, just didn't have the cutting edge when it mattered most to stay in that game at least on the score sheet. But Orlando, again, Hector's going to sit here and say championship DVD. I mean, it is 100% a pick for a lot of fans at the start of the season to represent potentially the East going in to MLS Cup. And here they are, right? They took down Atlanta, a decent side. Was anybody shocked by this game at all?
No.
Bob was. Okay, interesting.
Yeah,
Why?
absolutely shocked. I thought Orlando was going to kick the crap out of them. I thought this was going to be a 4-0, 4-1, 5-1 game. And that is what gives me hope going into the next round, because Red Bull has that offense that turns on and turns off, and they disappear sometimes. But with Orlando, they just haven't dominated a game. They haven't played the game they wanted to play in quite a long time. Like, you can't tell me it was on the cards that they wanted to go 0-0 in Charlotte. That was Charlotte forcing their game plan upon Orlando. And then the next game, when you're tied 1-1, Orlando at home did not want to go 1-1 into penalties against Colina, the best goalkeeper in Major League Soccer, whether or not you have El Popo on your own team. I mean, we know what Gillespie does, but it doesn't even matter. Orlando needed a statement win. They needed to say, no, we can play our game plan. We can force our style on someone else the way we've seen Red Bull do 4 games in a row now. They have not been able to do that. And, it's just that to me. I think Orlando really needed a statement win. They wanted to go out. We know they're not playing their style of ball. They're not kicking it to, Facundo Torres on the outside and scoring 3 goals in a game and having, these electric players with goals and assists and all this other stuff. 1-0 is a win. They move on, but I was certainly not impressed, and that's not the game script I saw. I saw Orlando and overs.
0 style points, like 0 style points for that victory. They got the job done. And that's kind of been the case in the entire postseason, right? They ended the regular season on a good note, like strong enough, and they were kind of a little bit of that hot streak in the final, quarter of the season. But yeah, it's kind of gone away now a little bit, and I don't even know what to expect. We'll talk about the Eastern Conference Final, but I really couldn't tell you how it's going to go, even with Orlando being at home, because that result, I think, it threw me off a little bit. Like Bob said, it threw me off a little bit.
I also say though that Atlanta, it looks like their offense pretty much broke down the first 20 minutes. Was that Jamal got injured, so that. And then
that was a tough one to see. It was like just trying to see him like work his way back into it, and then ultimately he frustrated.
Yeah, and then after that, who subbed in out also got injured afterward, because if you saw it, so it was like almost like their entire offense and who beat Miami was out the question, and then you start to see Atlanta's confidence kind of dwindle throughout the game, and then the one goal happened, and then you just saw him just drop, and then once they took out McCarthy, you knew that he was, his swan song. You knew that.
Shout out Dax.
Yeah, they knew that the game was out from there, and just give him his flowers when he could.
We kind of got primed Dak for this postseason, which is crazy. The guy played out of his mind against Miami and still had a great game, I think, overall against Orlando. So the old man's still doing it. All right, guys. And then finally, the Galaxy, right? Absolutely smashing Minnesota United, reminding everyone who has the best front three in the league. I think that at the end of the day, it's going to be crazy now to see how they're going to kind of look at this Western Conference final against the team as defensively sound as the Sounders. But we'll talk about that. This game, even with the red card, I think this is the exact opposite of Orlando and Atlanta. It's like I didn't see 6 goals on my bingo card. I'll be honest, but I saw Galaxy putting more than a few on Minnesota United going into this game. I really thought it was going to be just would Minnesota be able to keep up? And I almost had the same questions about the Sounders at the same time. Right, so 6-2, reminded the league of how much firepower this offense really has. Rob, when you're sitting there watching all of this, I mean, do you feel like MLS Cup is just inevitable?
It's hard. I mean, we always talk about on Lacuna Galaxiana. I mean, a head and a heart pick. I mean, my heart wants to say yeah, but my head is still dealing with 10 years of post-traumatic stress from 10 bad years under Chris Klein, right? So there's still work to do. Like Kobe Bryant said, job's not finished. I think everybody in that locker room knows that. All Galaxy fans out there are giddy with excitement, but they're not getting carried away either. They know that the job's not finished either. It's been a rough 10 years. And so, I mean, everybody's taking every single moment with the appreciation and that it warrants. I mean, because these are special times. Galaxy fans haven't had them in a long time. So MLS Cup is not inevitable, but it is a very, very big possibility. You got to work towards what your goals are. And I think they know that.
Yeah.
Oh, boo-hoo, 10 years. When?
I'll say that, but I think Dallas fans, like 10 years is nothing. It's been 30 plus years and I'm still waiting on one.
We got a couple of originals that haven't won the cup. So
all I gotta say is that 10 years feels like a long time when you're used to winning them, when that standard is there. I mean, yes, you guys are right. Like boo-hoo. I mean, but Galaxy fans were spoiled by that Bruce Arena period where it was I believe it was 4 MLS Cups in like 6 years or something like that.
Yeah, freaking died the last dynasty in MLS.
Yeah,
100%.
and
they were what the Kansas City Chiefs are right now in the NFL.
So spoiled, but it's good that these long-suffering fans. 10 years, I mean, decade is a long time, but they're getting their due.
Yeah, 100%, man, 100%.
At least you guys aren't DC United. So
Jesus, DC
I think
United
we can all agree on that one.
Yeah, we can all agree on that one. It could be worse. All right, guys. Look, semifinals were bangers all the way through, for the most part anyway, and it set up some very interesting matchups going in, right? Let's talk first on the East side. It is the first game that we're going to be experiencing as far as conference finals go. Looking at Orlando hosting the New York Red Bulls. And, guys, I was in on the Red Bulls against NYCFC. I did not pick them against Columbus. I think very, very few of us out there probably did. And this is a team, man, that doesn't have to dominate possession, doesn't have to dominate XG. In fact, they've been behind in both of those categories every single postseason game and are still getting the job done. This X factor that I keep alluding to, I think is so present with this team. Even at home, I don't feel like Orlando have a massive advantage at all. In fact, I think at home they're worse, right? I think less than 50% of their points accumulated throughout the entire season have been won.
Yeah, they had more road wins than
they had more road wins. Yeah, more road points
regular season. Yeah.
So you look at this, man, and I feel like it tees things up nicely for the Red Bulls to come in to walk into Orlando, get a dub, and head on to MLS.
Jose, you said the same exact thing about the Atlanta United matchup.
No, I didn't. First off, did not say the exact same thing. No shot in hell would I say yes. This is a perfect time for them to come in and get an upset. I said there's a chance, but they're the 9th seed, bro. I mean, I was hopeful because of what they did to Miami. They were America's team, bro. We talked about it. Who wasn't cheering for Atlanta United against Miami and then against Orlando?
True.
Right? Except for
Messi
those
fans.
fan bases. Yeah, Messi fanboys. But that's it, bro. I mean, I was just wanting the Cinderella team to keep going. But realistically, I mean, Red Bulls look like the scarier team, like the dark horse in what's left of the MLS Cup playoffs so far.
Yeah, they absolutely are. And I think that they are the only team left in it that can beat the LA Galaxy. I really think that to be the case.
Yeah, I think with that take, I mean, it's keeping up with them too. But we'll talk about the Galaxy and Sounders here in a second. But why do you say that? Why do you say that, Bob?
So I already talked about Orlando and how they've played the other team's style every single time, and they've won so far, but they can't do that against Red Bull. They're not going to go and say, "Oh, we're going to let you press us." Like that's just not a thing. And Red Bull have been on top of it every single step of the way. And Schwartz has come out with different game plans. He's had 5 in the back, 4 in the back. He's the only coach through the postseason that's put out different formations, different tactics. And you talk about the X factor. I can name the X factor. It's called Emil Forsberg. I mean, this is a guy who scored in Champions League, scored in the World Cup, scored in the Euros. He's done it at every level. And I remember the Columbus Crew game. He got chopped down in the penalty box, and the Crew was, swarming the center, trying to, like ice the kicker like they do in football. And he's juggling the ball on his nose. He's bouncing on the nose, and the fans are cheering. Like, he is just oblivious to what else is going on the field. Emil Forsberg, 10-4-2 with only 2 losses. Red Bull is when he's on the field more than a half, more than 45 minutes. When Emil Forsberg isn't on the field for more than 45 minutes, they are 2 wins, 11 draws, and 7 losses. And it's not only about him. Yes, he is one of the best players in Major League Soccer. There's no question about that. He's not young. He doesn't have the legs he used to, but he has the experience. And we need to treat him being on or off the field the same way we treat Evander or Lucho Acosta or Ricky Puig. He is that quality of player. And even better, he lets Lewis Morgan play in his natural position, which we didn't know until this year was actually a striker and not a winger. And that's when him and Van Zier have hooked up the best. It's such a huge swing. 2.13 points per game when he's in the lineup, 0.85 points per game when he's not in the lineup. Red Bull have 1 win and a draw against Orlando. Neither have Emil Forsberg. One didn't even have Tolkien in it, or Edelman. So that is the game plan that we're looking at. I think this is a really tough matchup because Red Bull has had a different game plan against NYCFC. It was like, let these guys shoot. They're going to miss anyway. And there were a lot of guys running behind the back line that I don't like to see. Against Orlando, that's not going to work. You can't let that happen. But there was a different game plan against Columbus. I think I have some faith in Schwartz that he's going to put something together and make this team competitive. I don't know if they're going to win, but I know that they're not going to put up a stinker on the field. They're going to give us something to watch. So, I'm really, really excited for this team. I think that they, while they are like 500 on the season, every match they've been in has been kind of competitive. And if you look at the teams that they beat, Orlando only beat, I took count of this live on a show last night. They've only beaten 2 playoff teams all season long. They beat Cincy and Charlotte during the regular season, and that's it. It's all been draws and losses from there on. Red Bull has lost to some awful teams, but they've beaten 6 playoff teams. They've beaten Cincy. They've beaten Miami. They've beaten Orlando. They've done everything that you want to see them do. So that does inspire a little bit of faith, but I'm kind of pulling the reins back, and I want like someone to argue with me and tell me like, no, you're a homer. Stop talking.
Yeah. No, I mean, I disagree. I mean, just getting the pulse from Galaxy fans around here, they fear Seattle more than New York Red Bull. I mean, plain and simple, Seattle's a better defensive team. You've talked about Schwartz being able to pull out different game plans. Vanny's pulled out different game plans to counter against every single team. Teams have come at him with the press. They've worked out of the press. The teams have sat in the low blocks. They've been able to break down the low block. Teams have been looking to seed the ball and put the line of like engagement a little bit further back as well. That hasn't worked either. They've been playing over the top, or they've played in the half spaces. So whatever teams have thrown at them, they've been able to figure out. The Galaxy are a better second half team. All year on our pod, we've talked about like, will this team start this game well, right? Plain and simple, they're a better second half team, and that tells me that they're able to go into halftime, look at how teams are playing them and say, okay, look, this is the way we're going to bust it open. And usually it's happened. I mean, a lot of great come from behind wins this year against SKC, against LAFC. Those are just a couple of the big ones. But yeah, I think if we're speaking frankly, Seattle's the bigger fear. But to be honest, I mean, Galaxy fans don't engage as much with the Eastern Conference. I saw New York Red Bull at the CVI at the beginning of the year. You're right, Forsberg is an incredible player, but I mean, Forsberg still has to contend with the midfield that carries Edwin Cedillo, Ricky Puig, and either Mark Delgado or Marco Royce. So I mean, who's going to be picking up those cats? I mean,
but against Orlando though. But against Orlando,
I agree with that. But against Orlando, and my whole thing is like against Seattle, what are you worried about? That it's 0-0 and you go into penalties and lose? Like that's what I would be worried about. Like I would not be worried if Red Bull's going against Seattle. Like that's what it is.
Oh no, I'm sorry. I thought we were talking about Galaxy versus New York Red Bull. I didn't know you were talking about New York Red Bull against Orlando.
So. Yeah. So against Orlando, I think like the one point I would make as a kind of a retort to what Bob's saying was I think what Pareja will aim to do, and we saw it against Atlanta. I think the aim is to disrupt. I'm not saying that they're going to go in there and try to do what they did to, the couple forwards that got injured for Atlanta in that game, but that is part of the game plan, right? To make this game ugly, to make sure they don't get a chance to build rhythm and consistency throughout that midfield, to force them to adjust more than they want to. And I think that with Orlando, that'll be what they lean on. Cartagena's probably gonna get a card. Araujo maybe gonna get a card, right? Like I totally see it. They're gonna try and do whatever they can to make sure that the moment they try to enter the attacking third, that they're felt, right? That they're immediately felt by somebody with a physical presence in that midfield.
I think defensively for Orlando, you guys got to give some props to it. I mean.
Jansson's a good center back, but I mean,
since this playoff started, they've only allowed one goal in regular play. So I mean, like,
but look at who they played though.
I get that, but we're talking about. I understand all those things, and same thing you can say for the Red Bulls as well, and I totally get that part. But I mean, initially when the season started, we were shitting on this defense, and I mean, they've improved, and I mean, like, say what you want about Charlotte, maybe not the best attacking team. And Atlanta, I mean, a team that came in very hot into it, you would expect that there'd be some goals coming out of their way, despite the fact that they're a 9th seed. But I think, like you said, Orlando has been able to stay very disruptive, and I think that improvement on that defense at least helps. The only thing is now is when are we going to see this attack be the attack that everyone thought it's going to be? And I think what Bob has mentioned about the Red Bulls, obviously their counterattack style is going to be a problem throughout this game when they do face off against each other. But I mean, it's just going to be who can finally sneak one out between both teams playing disruptive defense.
I have a question for you guys. Something that I noticed on all three of these goals across these two legs, right? In Orlando, Atlanta, and then in the River Hudson, is that all these goals were not from open play. They were kind of like recycled set pieces, So, I mean, for me, it seems like the team that's going to win is going to be the one that fights for every second ball and that wins the second ball. I again, not as familiar with the Eastern Conference as the Western Conference. Who do you think has the better shot at actually scoring from open play? Like, who has the more fluid football?
You probably have to say, from my perspective, Orlando, in terms of like, yes, just controlling the game, right? Having the possession in the areas that you want them to have it. I think Red Bulls very intentionally, like by design, are okay with just sitting back and waiting for their moment. That I think that's when I watch them play. Like we said, they haven't had a single game in the postseason where they've dominated XG or possession. They've gifted all of that to the opponents that they've been playing, because on paper, you would argue that those opponents, like the Columbus Crew, for example, are maybe a more complete team. But at the end of the day, right, they're able to capitalize on their opportunities. I don't know if letting go of control is the biggest issue for them. Like, I think they're okay with it. They're very comfortable in those shoes. But I think when those moments come, those 50-50 balls, those second balls that you mentioned, I feel like we've seen it already, right? Those 2 goals against NYCFC, they just jumped on it. It just, in a moment where one of us is going to win this duel, I'm going to win it. And that's the mentality. And I think you supplement that with the crazy experience that Forsberg has, the X factor he has as a player who wants to step up in those big moments. It's going to be difficult. They'll need someone like Torres to match him. They'll really need someone like Torres or Enrique to match the X factor that Forsberg brings to the table.
And you talk about that double pivot that they run in the offense, in the defensive side with Cartagena and Araujo, who are fantastic players, probably 2 of the best pair. Felipe Carvalho and Daniel Edelman should be considered right up there with them. Maybe they're not the skilled, flashy names, but they are workhorses, and they will get in there and get after the ball. I mean, Carvalho, you saw his offensive contribution. I didn't know he had that in him whatsoever. So, Banger. I think that Red Bulls are very comfortable playing disruption. That is their style too. And it's, I don't know what I can say on the show. You can't bullshitter, you know,
yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. I don't want to discount what they do.
Yeah.
I just feel like maybe it isn't the I think those guys have it in their locker, right? But I don't think I don't think it's the game plan. I think that there's something a little bit different there where I feel like Pareja's instructions will be, let's make this a very physical game. Let's make it a dogfight and force them to actually beat us.
And you saw two very important players in Carballo and Nelis go down last match, and we were still not sure on Nelis's availability for this. I would assume he might be a 50-50 call, if that, and that would have a huge impact on the game too. So I think we're talking in a perfect universe where both teams are 100%. That is certainly not the case here. Yeah,
very true. With that said, let's get predictions all the way around, man. How do we see this game going? We'll start with RBNY's newest fan, Davi. How do you see this? How do you see this game going?
The greatest predictor of the future is the past, and Red Bull will eventually go 30 years without a cup. I mean, yeah, they could play the disruptive football. They did it perfectly against NYCFC, and Nick Cushing fell into the trap. So, and also that Coronel, he's been good in the playoffs too. He's kept us all out, and there's a couple opportunities that NYCFC should have taken. I think Orlando has the more clinical players and in Torres that could do it. And I think if they play free-flowing football and take an opportunity or two, I think the Red Bulls could possibly be in a sense of urgency and maybe play desperate. And they're not really that good at playing free-flowing football. They like to be disruptive and have the other team have control and then hit them on the counter. And they played it perfectly against Columbus, and they played it great against New York City on a small field at Citi Field. So, but I can't back Red Bull. There's no way in hell I'm backing Red Bull, and I think Orlando wins. And even if Red Bull make the final, I think depending on who they play, if it's Seattle, they might have a chance. If it's LA, there's no way they're winning.
Man, the hate watches from Davi's side are going to be real, bro.
I mean, at this point, it's all I got. So
you just
Cushing's out. You got something else.
Hey, I gave Red Bull their credit. So
yeah, way too much. Fair enough. Rob, how are we seeing it, man, from the West Coast side?
Gallese versus Coronel tells me it's going to be a low-scoring affair, and it's going to be 1-0 to Orlando.
Interesting, Mo.
I got the Red Bull, I will say. And I think even with Hector, I've said early on, whoever was going to win that derby between the two in New York will probably go all the way. So I'll just ride with the hot hand.
There you go, my man. Hector?
Championship DVD, baby. Orlando.
Yes, sir. Championship DVD. That's the only thing I have left. Championship DVD.
That's the only thing I have left. Bob, we know how you're leaning on this one. I mean, no surprise.
Well, I have 3 official plays in this one, actually.
So, nice. All right.
Both teams to score no draw at plus 150. I think that this game is going to have some goals in it. I don't think it's going to be 0-0, and I think it's going to be, because it's one of those things. Like, here's the thing with Red Bull: if they're down 2-0. They might as well lose 6-0, and you're going to see them throwing numbers ahead like you haven't seen before, and things can get out of control quickly. We've seen that happen earlier this season, and that's the right attitude for me. Like, lose by 50. Who cares? If you lose by 1, it doesn't really matter. My second play is Red Bull over 1.5, just because it's at plus 210, and I think that happens more than once every 3 matches. And the third one, really, really strange odds. We saw players get hacked all over the box and not have it called against NYCFC. So I'm taking Emil Forsberg to score a goal at plus 350. That's the highest number you've ever seen for an attacker, like a number 10 on a team. And since he's the penalty taker, that's going to happen more than once every 4 games. So I think, that's a good chance of playing. So I have those 3 as my official plays for this one.
There you go, man.
Who wins in a shootout? Well. Who wins in a shootout, Pendag or Forsberg?
Forsberg.
Yeah. I'd go with that. Forsberg.
I would still be inclined to say Forsberg.
Over Pendag?
Yeah, I'd be inclined to say Forsberg.
Yeah,
personal opinion. Yeah. But bro, you're also an NYCFC fan, man. I mean, at the end of the day, like
I hate both players equally.
I don't know who we're talking about.
Gazdag.
Yeah,
but we call him Pendag over here.
Who cares? He's gone.
Is he, bro? The biggest shade throw towards Philly ever.
He's not playing a game this weekend, that's for sure.
That's for sure. That's for sure. But I would.
Oh, I thought it was.
I would still take Forsberg. I think.
I thought
Again,
it was like gone. I thought it went back to Europe or something.
It's. I think it's something to do with just like big moment. I don't want to say aura. Aura is one of the most used words on the internet. I don't want to say aura, but like
it's so overused.
I hate it. But he's got aura. All right, guys, let's move on to our final preview. Galaxy hosting the Seattle Sounders in Carson. This one's going to be. Everyone's expecting it to be, very one-sided matchup. I think based on what we know about the Galaxy, right? This is a front three. I mentioned before, the best front three in the league at the very moment. All three are in the top 10 for XG created so far up to this point in the season. They're doing it like really nobody else is doing it collectively. And that poses a very unique problem, I think, for Seattle, right? Seattle has a great defense, but that extra time goal by Morris was the first goal they've scored in this postseason. LAFC got the own goal, and both of those legs against the Houston Dynamo went 0-0 PKs. So
no, it didn't.
Sorry.
Roldan scored.
1-1. Yeah, Roldan. Sorry,
but that's okay. I apologize.
But either way,
I had to watch that shit.
Yeah. Either way, it's just when you have to keep up with that type of a potency in an attack. I mean, they're gonna have to score what 3 goals minimum to stay in this game past the 90. In my opinion.
I don't see them winning in I don't even see. I can't.
Like Stefan Fry can have the game of his life. He can go. I don't even want to make the comparison to Guzan, but like I'm saying, he can have the absolute game of his life, and it may not mean anything if Rui Diaz, De La Vega, if Morris can't make some magic happen on the other side of the pitch. You know what I mean? So, Rob, we'll go to you first, man. I mean, looking at this, I mean, maybe there's a little bit more confidence against the Sounders than if this was El Tráfico in the Western Conference Final, because a rivalry, anything can happen regardless of form. But how are you feeling about this going in? Does it feel like there's still some pretty big pressure to get the job done now?
Absolutely. I mean, I spoke to Brian Schmetzer earlier today, and one of the things that he was talking about is that they're free and without a care because no one expects them to win. They have a couple injuries. They're not playing at home. So they're saying like, hey, no pressure's on us. All the pressure's on Los Angeles. So they're playing at home. They're the favorite. Everyone's saying they're going to win MLS Cup already. So let's just go out there and play free. So, but if you look at the other side, I've been out to training a couple times as well, and these Galaxy players are very loose and confident. I mean, they're about their business. Like I said, they know what they need to do. They know the job's not done. There's a quiet determination about the team. But you asked earlier, is it inevitable? No. There's a certain level of nerves against Seattle. I mean, Ricky Puig hasn't really created a ton of chances against him in the last couple of matches. The last match was against Seattle, was in the League's Cup. The Galaxy got eliminated 3-1. We're basically out of it within 10 minutes. I mean, it was 3-0 within 10 minutes or something like that. And so
that was a crazy game, by the way, too. All the goals were defenders. Like none of the forwards got any.
And there were set pieces, the first two. And I mean, Galaxy have had trouble with that all year. So I mean, it's just one of those things. If they play the way they played against Minnesota, they should be fine and they should have no trouble. But if they play like they played against Austin earlier this year or Chicago earlier this year or any of the first two El Tráficos, yeah, I mean, Seattle has a definite chance. And let's face it, those guys know how to win. They've been there. I mean, they have that pedigree. So I mean, there's nerves in that. Your opponent is good, but there's a confidence in that if you play the way that you've played, you should be okay.
Yeah, keep in mind, guys, with this, this matchup.
I have a question about
go ahead.
the Galaxy because Honda does talk up. You brought up the Austin game and the Chicago game, like the sense of playing down to your competition. Do you think that's a very like good? I mean, because I feel like Minnesota, maybe that has changed because Minnesota, if you were to have that label of playing down to your competition, I feel like that Minnesota game would have felt a lot closer. But do you feel that the LA Galaxy has moved on from that kind of stigma of being playing down to their competition, or do you think Seattle might just be a different kind of game?
Yeah, you're right. I think if there was a chance that was going to happen, it was going to happen against Minnesota. 23 days off. Galaxy were the heavy favorites in that one. So if it was going to happen, it was going to happen there. They haven't really played down to their opposition in the last half of the season. Houston being the kind of outlier there, but even against Houston, I mean, it was more of an offensive thing that they couldn't really get going. So no, I think they take Seattle very seriously. I mean, Greg does as well. I mean, he has both these managers have a very high level of respect for each other. They spoke very warmly about each other today, and I know that Greg for sure has a high level of respect for Brian Schmetzer, because usually Brian Schmetzer outwits him. Greg has not gotten the better of Brian Schmetzer on a lot of occasions. So no, they're very much looking at Seattle as like, hey, if we mess up, this MLS Cup, which everybody says is ours, is not ours.
Yeah, that's a fair point. I think the matchup to watch in this one, from my perspective, is going to be how Seattle deals with Jovic. Keep in mind the 3 games that they've played against one another this season, Jovic has never featured. They'll get the full potent front 3 the Galaxy have to offer. And I think that, watching someone like, Yeimar go up against, Jovic, I think whether or not Nuhu's going to be back, does anybody have any of that? I try to look at it today. I know he wasn't there for the last playoff game. International duty. I don't know if that's ended.
Last I checked, he was still in Cameroon.
No. Brian Schmetzer said that he's actually in Seattle. As the press conference was going on, Brian Schmetzer said he's in Seattle. We've just heard from facilities today. He's in Seattle, and he's actually on his way into the facility. And he let people that were actually at the presser go, you guys might actually see him here in a little bit. So he was going to be looked at by doctors. He's in contention to play. Paul Rothrock is definitely an out.
Yeah, gotcha. That makes more sense to me. I think that's another matchup too, as well, right? Getting Nuhu back and that physical battle that I expect to see between him and Paintsel, kind of going back and forth on that wing. It should be interesting, right? Some of those very key individual matchups. But and keep in mind, De La Vega too is injured and banged up as he was this season. I don't believe he's played against the Galaxy this season at all either. And so you get kind of those 2 big players, one on each side, to kind of come in and maybe change just what we're all kind of expecting, or how we're expecting this match to potentially go. I'll be honest though, guys, for me, it's still very straightforward. I expect the Galaxy to win this game. I think it's not as straightforward as saying, look, it's going to be clinical, Seattle have no chance. It's just a very steep hill to climb, and they're being led truly by their keeper. I believe so anyway. Their backline, their keeper are going to keep them in this game for as long as possible. If they can delay the front 3 and delay that inevitability that everyone kind of feels around the league with this Galaxy front 3, then sure, maybe they have a chance the longer this game goes. But if they give one up in the first half, it's hard for me to bank on a set piece or another random counterattack that maybe might end up in a goal for the Sounders. I think it's going to be something like 3-1.
Or a lucky deflection that ends up in their own net.
Yeah. Again, it's just one of those things where it can happen. We saw it against LAFC. It can happen. These moments of magic keep us all locked in as fans. It's just, I always ask myself, what's most likely to happen?
Or just some random red card that would happen.
Well, I mean, it's less random when it happens back-to-back games, Hector. It's a lot less random with the Houston Dynamo. That seems a little premeditated, if anything. But yeah, man, that's just me. I don't know if I'm being too harsh. Seattle have exceeded my expectations for this season. I want that to be known as well, right? They started off horribly. They do what champions do. They found a way to kind of rally midseason and ride a very hot hand of form into the playoffs. 10 matches now unbeaten. But I think that ends Saturday night.
I think Galaxy absolutely controls this game. I think that they win by multiple goals. I don't think this is a 1-0 scenario, even in the least. And, you even look at LA Galaxy, 18 of their 69 goals this season have come after the 80th minute. So it's like, bet the overs, because even if it's close, they're going to put it away late, maybe with 2 or 3 different goals. We've seen that a couple times just this postseason. But, it's about the way they're dominating play. In Seattle, they've been very, very good on defense. 32% of their matches at home, only 32% of their home matches have allowed over 1.5 goals. But in another row, that goes up to 42%. It's a 10% swing. That's quite a difference there. They've been the home sweethearts for a really big part of the season. And I said I was going to make a lot of money on Seattle this year because they started off poorly, and I knew it was going to turn around. I made that money. Now it's time for them to step out of the way so I can make some money on the LA Galaxy this weekend.
What'd you do with that money?
Don't worry about it.
That's a good answer.
He's buying you a Red Bull jersey, bro.
Yes, sir. Gonna ship that bad boy over there.
Yeah, just put Cushing's face on it, and I'll hang it up on my wall.
A Cushing Red Bulls jersey would be hilarious, by the way. That would be absolutely hilarious. I'm right there with Bob. Anybody here just think a sneaky Seattle wins possible prediction wise?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say so. I mean, it happened last round, and again, as mentioned earlier, it's still like the same core of players that have been there for MLS Cup and know how to win and know how to get there. Experience goes a long way, and especially in the playoffs if you're MLS proven. But I mean, LA is just hot. And they're just hot on fire right now. They're 15 goals in 3 games in the playoffs. It's like what? It's like I saw a graphic on like Apple TV. That's like what, like third best in like playoff history or something like that.
Yeah,
I can't remember what the stat. Second,
yeah, second at the moment. Well, if you're looking at the, as many goals in as little amount of games, it's 15-3. So they have the record, but all time
they're averaging 5 per game. That's insane.
Yeah, so I think Toronto has 17, but that was in 6 games. So,
and that Toronto team was nuts. Was absolutely nuts.
Another Miami team.
Yeah, exactly. That team was easily one of the best teams ever in this league. So, if not the best ever. So, I think at the end of the day, I think collectively, right, we could probably all say that we're in the LA Galaxy camp. Seattle might surprise us. They really might.
I mean, Seattle is definitely like Domino from the Deadpool movies, where things just happen to work out for them.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah,
because I mean, it's 2 red cards in the Dynamo series, which is obviously the reason why they won. And then when you go to the LAFC matchup, I mean, an own goal that kept them in the game, and
a fantastic finish by Morris. You can't take it away from him. Like
a crazy angle, crazy angle. No one was gonna get that. So I mean, effectively so. But that goal wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for that own goal.
I agree.
But you still have to create that opportunity to have your own goal.
That is true.
So
you got to create your own luck in these situations.
Once again, things just work out. Just happen to work out for these guys. So
and look, and again, you could all wrap this around the fact that none of these happen if Fry doesn't keep them in the game. If he doesn't find a way to make save after save, and so it's kind of a shame he hasn't won MLS Goalkeeper of the Year. I think he should definitely have that in his trophy cabinet already. He's kind of showing that now, but he'll really have to have almost a mirrored performance to what Guzan did against Miami. He really will. I feel like you'll need to have the game of your life to stop the inevitable from happening.
Can he do it 2 times in a row though?
Yeah.
I mean,
that's the question.
That is the question. It's possible,
but you're going up against Paintsel, Peck.
I just wouldn't put my money on it. If I was betting on this game, which I probably will end up doing, I'm not putting my money on the Seattle Sounders. It's just difficult to do. It just really is. And again, I'll hold my hands up if I'm wrong and people come back to this video and drop insane comments because I was terribly wrong on the Sounders pick. So be it. I feel that confident.
Which is saying a lot because Jose's been very positive for Seattle on behalf of Xiaoyan.
I've had to stick up for them more than I wanted to, and I think now those days might be done again against this version of Galaxy. So I'm gonna
say 3-1 Galaxy, but I wouldn't be surprised if Seattle do it again.
I had the same scoreline. 3. Yeah,
I think the 3 P's get on the score sheet.
Yeah,
I have 3 official plays in this one. LA Galaxy and over 1.5 goals plus 120. Liking where that's going. Both teams to score no draw, plus 130. Now, actually, LA Galaxy double chance and no draw was exactly the same, plus 130. So I just took the double chance on the offhand that Galaxy blow it, and I'm not stuck holding my own hand there. And Peck was plus 150 as a goal scorer last match. He scored in 8 of the last 10 matches now, and he scored 10.
He scored like what, 30 seconds in the last game or something like that, like 30 seconds.
He was at plus 150, so you 150% return on your money. Now he's up to plus 175. That's even better money.
Wow.
So definitely feeling that. That's an implied probability. Let me see. I'm only pulling my little calculator up here now. Plus 175 is a 36% chance. Does Peck score in one of the 3 game times that they play? Yes, he probably scores in 2 of the 3. So, that's how I'm looking at that one. So, a lot of really good plays here. And I've talked to a lot of people. I've been on a lot of shows this week, and it seems like everyone is like, yeah, it's LA Galaxy's time. Because again, with Red Bull, yeah, they have a great defense, and they'll try to dominate play. I say dominate play, but you know what I mean when I talk about a pressing team playing on the counter. Dominate play is a little different than dominating possession. Who do you have to worry about on Seattle? Who's the guy? I look up and down this roster, who are you worried about? Who's going to beat you? I just don't know.
I couldn't tell you. De La Vega may be the combination of him and Morris, but it's a lot of pressure to put on.
Score his second goal this season in LA.
De
De La Vega doesn't seem like, at least against LAFC, he seemed like he was struggling a little bit, and he was getting knocked off the ball a lot. I mean, I don't see him being the guy that's going to unlock this game for them. I worry about the Roldans more than anything. I mean, they could be the X factor here, but Bob brought up Gabriel Pecci. He's playing at home and 20 matches played across all competitions at the Digs this year. He has 25 goal contributions. So, I mean, when he's at home, he scores. Jose, you brought up Dayon not playing and not seeing Seattle all year. He has 18 goal contributions in 15 matches at home this year. So, I mean, these are the X factors. I mean, Peck, they already know about. Dayon, they haven't seen this year, but I spoke to Schmetzer earlier, and he said, the game plan is to limit Ricky, but you limit Ricky, you still have to deal with Peck. And if you're not dealing with Gabriel Peck, then you can switch it across the wing to JP. And then if not, then you have the chess master.
Then they switch which wing they're playing on and really confuse
exactly.
Right. It's insane. It's so free flowing, and that's the biggest problem. Is like, there's so many pieces you have to worry about. You can't shut them all down. And I think if you did try to go about it that way, the individual battles on paper are most likely going to lean towards the favor of the LA Galaxy. So, yeah, man, I think Jovel. I
should have won coach of the year. Now that we're hearing
we talked about it, bro. When the three candidates came out, we did the video, right? That Vanny deserved to be in somewhere in that conversation.
Well, there was another robbery today. Yesterday, actually, John Thornton won MLS Executive of the Year over Will Kim, which is absolutely ludicrous and criminal.
Yeah, look at every one of these guys who talked about all of these signings, how they've worked out so well. Like every FO has to be looking at this and like just taking notes, man. Like
when you get a GM first year and you make the playoffs and you have a successful playoff run, it's exciting for the team that they take over and the fans and everything like that. They cultivate the fans and they get the fans back into it, especially in a historic franchise like LA Galaxy, where they've been middling and been piss poor for 10 years. And now the first year that you get Klein out of there and you get a new
crazy,
guy.
By the way,
he gets some one game to MLS Cup.
That's all she wrote.
If Nick Cushing was the problem, and whoever our next manager gets us to MLS Cup, whether that be a fantasy of mine or a fever dream, I will never shut up about it. I will. At that point, you gotta just say I was right. Cushing was the problem.
We'll see, bro. We'll see.
Speaking of LA Galaxy, Efrain Alvarez just scored a goal for T1.
Hey, there we go.
There we go.
Hey, man, that's an East LA boy. We're happy for him. I mean, it was necessary that he find playing time somewhere else, but Galaxy made a little money on him, and he's playing well, so everybody happy.
Yeah,
my co-host on my own show said LA Galaxy last season was a bad collection of good players. And, Vanny came in this offseason and I saw two wings coming. I'm like, Vanny loves his wingers. This is going to be absolutely hit the ground running, man. What a fantastic team. What a turnaround for a rebuilding season. Come on.
Yeah. And again, not saying anything away from the Sounders. Had a fantastic season, exceeded their own expectations, I'm sure. But I think we're all collectively in the bucket of, the road kind of stops here for them. And I think it does set up a very interesting MLS Cup final if our predictions do come true. And again, you'll be able to tune into that MLS Cup final preview here on Goals TV, as long as you subscribe to the channel down below, like the video, and then look, drop us a comment as well. Let us know what your predictions are. You're never shy about that in the comments. So I'm expecting a lot of noise down there, but let us know, especially if you have Seattle in any way, shape, or form. I need to hear that argument. I think even Xiao Yang, when I talked to him from Ray Green TV, is a little more realist about it, trying to be conservative with his take on it, but does still see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, maybe some optimism. I think you just have to have it if you're a Sounders fan. So again, guys, let us know down below. But we're going to wrap the show here from everybody here at Up MLS. My name is Jose. That's Hector. That's Bob. That's Davi. That's Rob. That's Mo. We'll catch you guys next time.